The horn of the old Chevy died 3 blocks away. Jackson turned off the ignition, stretched, took off his cap, and went into the garage. The engine of his Shadow stood in disassembled form, and fresh oil had already leaked onto the concrete floor beneath it. He squatted down, ran his finger along the metal plate, wiped his hands on a rag, and hid. From behind the wall, Emily's voice. Laughing, long and loud. The phone conversation had been going on for 10 minutes already. Not with his mother, not with his sister. Too lively, too easy. Jackson was not paranoid. He knew that everything in life is felt, especially falsehood. He did not hear the words, but he heard intonations. Masculine, not on the air, but in her voice, yes. She laughs like that only when she wants to please. And he knew how she sounded when she was just talking. And he knew how she sounded when she was lying. He went back to the engine. He tightened the key, then another. Finished it, washed his hands. No fuss, no unnecessary sauce. Just noted inside himself. Something has started. Dinner was simple, grilled chicken and salad. Emily was wearing a short silk dress, barefoot, her hair down. He noticed the new polish on her nails, the shoes that were standing by the door, and that she definitely did not wear to work. On a chair next to her, a bag. A small one. One that does not fit a laptop, but easily holds powder and spare underwear. He did not ask. Emily sliced an avocado, chatted about a new advertising campaign, mentioned the name of a colleague, Zach. The name slipped out like a random crumb on the table. But Jackson remembered it. He always remembered the things that mattered. When they sat down to dinner, he looked up at her. I do not play guessing games, Emily. You know how I feel about this. She froze. For half a second, then she smiled slightly, raising her eyebrows. What are you talking about, Jack? Do not make things up. Her voice was too even, and her answer was too quick. She was not thinking. She was defending herself. He did not continue. He just picked up his fork, cut off a piece of chicken, and started eating, without straining, without demonstrating. Just calmly, because he said everything he needed to. It was not a reproach. It was not an interrogation. He was not going to find out. He already understood enough. And if this was a false alarm, then nothing would happen. But if he was right, then the end would be silent, direct, and final. After dinner, she came up to him, kissed his temple, and said, I'm exhausted today. I'll take a shower and go to bed. He nodded. He did not get up. He did not hug her. He did not follow her. Instead, he went out to the garage, poured himself a whiskey, sat down next to the Shadow, ran his palm over the metal, listened to the silence of the house. At that moment, he realized trust is not a habit. It is a choice. She makes it every day, and it seems that today she did not choose him. It became quieter in the bedroom. Emily turned off the light earlier than usual. Not because she was tired, because she did not want to talk. Jackson understood this. She avoided dialogue because she felt that he already understood everything. But she hoped that it would pass. A new coffee appeared on the kitchen shelf, with a vanilla aroma. Jackson never drank it. Emily used to say that she hated vanilla. Now she praised it. On the hanger, a new leather jacket. Not his, not her style. Either a gift or bought for someone. She did not show it. Just hung it up. Little things. But they all fit together. One evening, when Jackson came home later than usual, driving a new bike for a client, she was already sitting on the veranda, in a dress and with a glass of wine. Her lips were scarlet, her gaze elusive. Her hair had just been straightened, and she smelled of expensive perfume. Not for him. Has someone moved into your office? He asked, passing by. She turned around, slightly confused. Huh? No. Why are you asking? The perfume is different, and your makeup is not for a meeting. You've either been with someone or you're going to be with someone. She laughed, loudly. Oh my God, Jack, you restarted to sound like. I do not know a guy from an old movie. What kind of jealousy scenes are you having? He did not answer. He just looked at her for a long time, without anger, just like she was someone he'd known for 10 years. And now he was seeing her for the first time. The next day, she was 3 hours late. She said she had a meeting with a client. She showed him the text message. He glanced at it. The text message had no name, just a number. The phrase was short, gone. You can move in. Emily said it was a message from a partner who had vacated the premises. He did not believe it, but he did not ask. He simply went to the garage. There, among the tools and iron, Jackson felt clean. Not a single false sound. Not a single false movement. Every bolt in place. Every nut is responsible for something. Her phone was no longer lying on the table. Now it was in her pocket, always with her. She even took it to the bathroom. Notifications were off. The screen did not display a name. Only new message. One day, while making breakfast, she said, "Jack, maybe you should start going out. Socializing, unwinding. You always in the garage." He looked up from the frying pan. "I'm where I want to be. I'm not having fun. I'm living. What about you?" She turned away, pouring herself some coffee. She took a sip. She sighed. She took the keys and left without saying goodbye. She grew more confident with each passing day. Not because she felt right, but because he was silent. She mistook his silence for inaction, for weakness, for concession. But Jackson was not the kind of person to act like a wounded animal. He watched, and he remembered. When a man lives by a code, he has only one line, a clear one. If you cross it, you leave. No scenes, no drama, just left. He did not chase clues. He did not set traps, did not check the messages. Because if you have to catch a woman, you've already lost her. One day, he stood on the veranda and saw her getting into a taxi. Not her car. The taxi pulled up around the corner. She looked back before getting in and did not notice him standing in the shadows. He did not approach, did not ask where. He knew. Then there was the night she came home without turning on the light. She took off her shoes at the door and crept into the bedroom barefoot. He lay with his eyes open, breathing evenly. She thought he was asleep, but he was not. He was just waiting for everything in her to spill the beans. And it spilled. That evening began like any other. A quiet, hot Tuesday. The dust of the approaching desert crawled across the asphalt. Jackson returned home a little later than usual, revving the engine on one of the old Harleys that a client had asked him to finish. When he opened the door, the house was empty. There was no smell of dinner. There was no light. Only a single lamp over the kitchen sink, where a note lay. Staying at the office. Deadline is approaching. Do not wait up. He read it and put it back. The paper was new, smooth, written in neat handwriting. He knew how she wrote when she was in a hurry. This was not the case. This was forethought, as if she knew he would come across this paper, which meant she had lied in advance. He could have stayed home, drink, forget, but instead he got behind the wheel, without anger, without emotion, just drove. Emily's office was in a building on 5th Street and South Broadway. The parking lot was almost empty. The light was on the 2nd floor. He got up, walked down the carpeted hallway. The door to the marketing department was ajar. He stopped to step away from the doorway. Without entering, behind the glass was Emily. She was sitting on the edge of the table, her back arched. On her knees was a blond man in a white shirt, about 10 years younger. His arms were around her waist, his face buried in her neck. She was laughing. Then there was a quiet groan, almost stifled, like a sigh. Emily's fingers ran through his hair. It was not a moment of doubt, but of fact. The closeness was obvious. The scene was over. Jackson stood in the hallway, silent. He did not lower his gaze. He did not look away. He watched until he felt that Emily saw him. And she did. She turned her head, and her frozen gaze crashed into his. Her whole face went out instantly, as if someone had pulled the plug from the socket. The laughter died. She jerked sharply, slid off the edge of the table. There was no apology or shame in her eyes. Only fear. A simple, animal fear of someone who says nothing but understands everything. He entered. Calmly, measuredly. He closed the door behind him. The air in the room became thicker. The guy, noticing him, jumped up, buckling his belt, muttering something. "Hey man, I did not know. I thought." "Shut up," Jackson said evenly, without anger, but so that the air stood still. Emily stood by the wall, leaning her hand on the windowsill. Her dress was crooked, her lips were red. She looked at the floor, silently. He came closer. He held out his hand, palm up, the ring. She looked up. She understood that there was no point in asking. She had broken everything. Everything Jackson knew about her. Everything they had built. everything on which his faith in her rested. He had given her a chance, then, at dinner. It was her moment, but she decided otherwise. Her fingers trembled as she took the ring off. He took it, clenched his fist, looked at the metal. Heavy, simple, no stones. He had chosen it himself. You chose, he said quietly. No judgment, no threat, just a statement, like a full stop. He turned and walked out. Did not look back. Did not say a word at the end. Did not slam the door. Just gone, like someone who never returns. Morning came with the dry click of a switch in the garage. Jackson stood at the workbench, rolling up his sleeves. The sun was streaming through the blinds, drawing sharp stripes of light on the floor. On the counter was a stack of papers. Divorce papers. He had collected them the night before. Without hesitation, without a doubt, the house was empty. He did not know where Emily had spent the night. He did not care. Whatever she did was her business now. He let her go, not out of weakness, out of principle. Her things were already by the door. 3 suitcases. One with a sticker from Mexico, which they had brought back together last year. He looked at her for a second and turned away. The things did not matter anymore. He blocked her access to her bank cards the night before. He withdrawn money from a joint account, leaving her with just enough to cover her immediate housing expenses. She had nothing more to do with him. He even disconnected her from the family streaming account. Everything cleaned out. When the clock showed 8:41, her black Mustang pulled into the driveway. The car braked harder than usual. Emily came running out of the salon, no makeup, wearing a simple T-shirt, her hair pulled back into a bun. Her eyes were puffy. She was holding her phone. Her fingers were shaking. Jackson, she shouted, walking up the steps. Can we talk? Please. You see, ain't not just erase everything, everything. He walked out of the garage without wiping his hands. Oil glistened on his fingers. He looked at her as if she were not a loved one, but someone on the other side of the world. I told you once. I will not tell you again, Emily. She took a step forward. It was a mistake. It was just stupid. I did not mean to, it just happened. Please, you not like. He interrupted. Not like who? She fell silent. I am not looking for revenge, he said evenly. I'm not trying to find out. I am not yelling. I am just leaving. What person crosses a line, that's it. We've never met since then. She closed her eyes, pressed her lips together. Then she spoke again, more quietly. You would not even let me explain. An explanation is something you say before, not after. He walked up to the door and opened it slightly. Inside were suitcases. He gave a sign. Everything is yours there. The documents are on the table. Leave the house keys in the drawer. You knew the rules. You broke them and left. She stood there as if she could not believe it, as if it was not him, not her Jackson, but he was the same, just without her. Is this the end? She asked. Her voice broke. He did not answer. He just turned away and headed back to the garage. Step by step, quietly, measured, as always. When the door closed behind him, he did not turn around. Not a sound, not a breath. He became part of the garage again. Iron oil silence. And outside, on the porch, stood a woman who thought she could play with fire. But now all she had left in her hands was ashes. The alarm clock did not ring. Jackson woke up on his own, a minute before sunrise. The sun was just touching the tops of the hills, and he was already standing on the porch, drinking black coffee, without sugar. The air was cool morning. The smell of oil and steel came from the garage. The new routine was no different from the old one, except that there was more silence. And in this silence he felt not loneliness, but freedom. No games, no falsehood. Just him and his life. The one he had built from the very beginning. Without discounts, without compromises. The house was tidy. The kitchen was clean. The bed was made. On the shelf were books on technology. On the wall was a map of routes through the desert, marked with dashes. On the bike was a new fork, which he installed by hand, slowly, checking every millimeter. No one hid their phone under their pillow anymore. No one slipped out of the house at 10 o'clock at night. Jackson did not wait for calls, did not hope, did not build illusions. He did not ask anymore, because there was no need to know anymore. He already knew everything. Every evening, he rode 20 miles along a country road, winding between the hills. The bike roared. The air hit his face, and in this roar there was silence. There, far from the houses, beyond the asphalt, he felt how everything that was blown away. Not pain, not resentment, but the dust of other people's choices. One day he stopped on a cliff. The desert stretched out below, yellow, dead, but in this deadness there was its own honesty. The sand does not lie. The sun does not flatter. And if you stumble, you will not be raised. Just like in life. He opened the glove compartment and took out a small box. There was a ring in there. The same one. He had not thrown it away the day Emily took it off her finger. He just put away, because it was not about memory. It was about choice. Now he took out the ring, looked at the metal, and threw it away. The ring flew into the void, disappeared into the sand. No more symbols, just a road. In the evening, he returned to the city, stopped at a tattoo parlor. The tattoo artist was Mexican, with ink on his hands and a voice like sandpaper. Jackson said simply, "Left shoulder blade." One phrase, in block letters. When he finished, his skin was burning. In the mirror, he saw clear, straight letters. One word, forever. He did not explain what it meant, and he was not going to, because it was not about Emily, and it was not about pain. It was about himself. He had chosen the path, and he stayed on it. Sometimes, when one of his old friends asked, "How are you? Is everything okay?" he would simply nod, better than ever. And it was not a mask. It was the truth. There was no room in his world for those who played anymore. Only iron desert road. A man with a code. Alone, but whole. And that's where today's story ends. Thank you for watching to the end. If you enjoyed it, do not forget to like and comment. We'd love to discuss this story with you. See you in the next video.